I'm here because I love bad ideas. I don't mean an idea that you think is good and it turns out to be bad, and the lessons that we can learn from failure, like why I should probably stop giving my children haircuts. I'm also not talking about intentionally pursuing a really risky, half-baked, possibly terrible idea, although for the record, I do support that kind of behavior, okay? But I do actually want to talk about the beauty of bad ideas as a tool to help you get unstuck, to help you find new ways of solving hard problems. And this is cool because it can work whether you're solving something on your own or it can work in a group. I'm the chief storytelling officer of an explainer animation studio where we make videos that explain complex ideas through animation. And this is a trick that we use all the time on the creative side, like if we need to come up with a new metaphor to explain something. But it's also kind of a game that we come back to again and again on Friday mornings, which is when our leadership team comes together to solve our business's problems. And quick disclaimer, I am not the first person to recognize that bad ideas are beautiful and really useful. This is a common concept that comes up in all kinds of advice for designers or writers, and just in creative thinking in general. I'm really inspired by the works of a man named Edward de Bono, who's called the father of creative thought. And I do want to give you my personal take on my very favorite activity because it's been so useful for me and my team, and I hope it can be useful for you. So let's take a second and back up and talk about what happens too often when a group comes together to solve a problem. Like the universe threw you a curveball, maybe like a global pandemic or something, and all of a sudden, the ways that you used to work aren't working anymore. So your group gets together to ponder this question: what should we do? Okay, good ideas are not going to be obvious for a complex problem, right? Because if they were, you don't need this meeting. So you're all sitting together in silence, and finally a really brave participant, we'll call her Molly, she throws out her idea. She says, maybe we could change how we do the scheduling, or whatever her idea is. And she's not even done sharing that idea when someone else, we'll call him Alex, he just knee-jerk reacts, he can't help it, and he says, we can't do that, we tried that already, there's no way that's gonna work. Okay, have you ever been in that space? So we're right back to where we were a minute ago, right? Except for now, nobody wants to go next to share their idea. And Molly, she can't wait for Alex to share an idea. We're playing idea whack-a-mole. It's not where we want to be, and there's a better way. And it goes like this. We just ask the group to list bad ideas first. That's it. Like, really bad? There's an ideation consultant. His name is Brian Matamore, and he calls this worst idea possible, where he suggests, like, we're talking like awful, embarrassing, illegal levels of bad, okay? And this is all with the agreement that we are not judging or evaluating any of these ideas right now. That will come later, but even if there's something to it, we are just gonna linger in bad ideas for a few minutes. Okay, this is counterintuitive. Like, how does this lead us to something practical? Let's talk about what happens when we do start with bad ideas first. Well, our group dynamics are definitely gonna change. You have just eliminated the pressure to be the smartest person in the room. And we're moving the group out of these arguments over what we should do. If you're arguing over what you should do, then only your most self-assured participants are probably comfortable speaking up, not to mention underlying power dynamics that could be going on in the room. So it's very likely that if you're arguing over what we should do publicly, there's probably some really interesting and innovative ideas bottled up in someone who does not want to risk criticism or embarrassment. Instead, we're drawing the group into this conversation of what we could do, the freedom, the unlimited possibilities of could, because there's no limit to the number of bad ideas. And so we're moving the group into collaboration mode. There's no winner of this individual exercise, right? And there's so much more psychological safety when you're not worried about defending your idea publicly. So this safety is going to bring more voices into participation, and you have just created a space for play rather than debate. Speaking of play, bad ideas are really fun. It's probably not a coincidence that this exercise actually mirrors the formula for a joke. Okay, a guy walks into a library and he asks the librarian for a cheeseburger. The librarian is like, sir, this is a library. And the guy says, oh, sorry, can I have a cheeseburger? So in any joke, or most jokes, we've got a setup where we're setting the context, we're getting aligned in our common assumptions. And then we have a punchline. That's the part that violates the setup that we created in the beginning. This activity is very similar. We have our problem, which is our setup, and our punchline, which is our bad idea. That's the part that surprises us, and it violates some assumptions we're making about our problem. So this is the same formula that we're using in Mad Libs and makes it fun to play, Cards Against Humanities, even Apples to Apples. And it means that doing this activity is actually very enjoyable. It's hard to come up with a long list of bad ideas that doesn't include some that are funny. And so instead of all that tension that we had before, now Alex and Molly might be laughing together, or bonding, making each other laugh. But I think the funny part isn't just beautiful for the fact that it's funny, but it's beautiful for the fact that it hones in on one of the secrets to why bad ideas lead to such great ideas. And that's that when we think of an idea and our brain is quickly sorting it between good and bad, well, like, what are those categories even made out of? They're formed by our beliefs. Beliefs about what our resources are, what we're allowed to do, what we want to do, and maybe what we think other people want to. And so the fun thing about bad ideas, or one fun thing, is that by listing out bad ideas, it can be kind of a shortcut to figuring out the assumptions that we've been holding, either about the problem or about acceptable solutions, right? And once we figure out what some of those assumptions are, we can start to ask ourselves a question, okay, is this actually true, or could something else also be true? Or have things changed? Like the last few years have taught us that circumstances can change quickly, and what you thought was impossible is suddenly feasible. Or can we solve for it? Is our brain telling us that some limitation is insurmountable when actually there might be another way to get around? Okay, sorry, this is like super theoretical, so let's make this tangible. Let's do a quick activity. We are going camping. We're going up to the Boundary Waters canoe area, and this is where we are going to throw our food and our gear inside of bags. We drive up there with our canoe on top of the car, we get our canoe in the water, we load everything up, we paddle out all day long until we find a campsite. Just as the sun is going down, we found the last open campsite. We set up our tent, and we start a fire, and that's when we realize that our friend Sebastian left the food pack leaning against the car. Okay, bad idea time. What could we do? I really want you to tell me ideas, bad ideas of what we should do right now. I can't see hands, so you just have to yell them out. I heard hunt. I heard eat Sebastian. Any others? Kill Sebastian. Oh, poor Sebastian. He didn't mean to do it. He's a real person, by the way, so I'm going to tell him you said that. Okay, a couple other ideas, and you can see there's a couple of themes here. Maybe we could steal food from other campers, right? We're pretty sneaky. Maybe we could hunt and forage for our meals. Maybe we could call in a float plane and ask them to drop our pack while they're flying in. Maybe we could just stop eating for the week. It seems like a pretty bad idea. Or maybe we could just host a talent show. It doesn't help it, like we're trying to come up with bad ideas, right? By the way, I literally asked my 5-year-old what she would do in this scenario this week, and I asked her for a bad idea, and instantly she said, we could look in our poop for food. And I have never been prouder, okay? But some of these ideas, okay, let's see what we can unpack some of these, right? Let's check out some of the assumptions we're making. Okay, so some of these hold still, like float planes are probably pretty expensive. We probably do need food to survive, in theory. Oh, we have an assumption that we need the food we packed. Okay, maybe there's something to that. We can't ask for help. Okay, that's interesting that we didn't realize we could ask for help. So, okay, what comes next? Because the whole point of this is not just your list of bad and funny ideas, although I do think that list is a perk. But what you get to do after you have that list is you get to use it. You get to go back through it, and this time you're looking for insights. You're looking for new mindsets that could be opened up. We've already talked about figuring out what those limiting assumptions might be, but also, are there any tweaks that maybe we could make to a bad idea to turn it into a viable idea? And so now we're making a second list, and this is our probably good or possibly good ideas list. This is the list we're going to actually choose from, okay? For all the very practical people out there. And maybe in this whole process, while you're writing out that list, you have hit a eureka idea. It's something that doesn't seem to have any drawbacks. It's amazing, and what's really fun about trying to find bad ideas is it's hard to find too many before you accidentally step in one that you love. Or maybe we play around and find ways to combine a few ideas or layer a few approaches at the same time, like stacking the deck. Like on our camping trip, maybe we call up a local outfitter and see if they know of any trips who are headed in our way tomorrow who could bring our bag. And for dinner tonight, maybe we paddle over to the scouts across the lake and ask if we could borrow some rice and beans in exchange for a private performance. Or one of the many other infinite ways that we could have solved that problem. But maybe we're only left with a few wisps of ideas for experiments that we could at least try. This is great. We're moving out of imagining that solving a problem is like finding a key, that there's just one correct answer. And instead, we're thinking about solving as more of this ongoing process of learning and experimentation. Experiments are great for two other reasons in this context. One is that you're lowering the expectation that a new idea is going to work seamlessly without surprises. It's just an experiment. The other thing is it's a lot easier to get skeptics to agree to experiments rather than sweeping changes. So often we hold on to our ways of seeing things and our ways of doing things as if they are the only way, and we don't even necessarily know that we're doing it. But it takes practice to be able to play with alternative perspectives. And it takes courage to be able to share those visions with other people. And that is what I love about Bad Ideas First. It creates this safe space and permission for your group to really explore and play with reality together. Lily Tomlin is a comedian, and she had a one-woman show called The Search for Intelligent Life in the Universe, in which she says, reality is nothing but a collective hunch. So if we do want to take new ideas and finding new ideas seriously, I really do think that we need to take some time entertaining the bad ones. And the next time that you are faced with an insurmountable challenge, I hope that instead of running away from your worst ideas, that you will try running towards them, or moonwalking backwards, or stealing your neighbor's hoverboard, because there are infinite ways to get there when you think about it. Thanks.